So we're here with George Parker, the unsquashable player. George Parker's been here on a pdhsports.com filming day, and we've got a lot of questions that have come in on social media, George, that we're going to ask you and that we're going to go through. Now, the first question that's come in from social media is all about your training, and it's about how much you train per day, so how many hours you train, and also what your training split is between being on court and being off court, and whether you're in the gym or whether you're doing aerobic type work.
For me at the moment, it's probably 70-30 court work. I think in my career, I've always prioritised gym a bit too much. So yeah, it's usually more 50-50 for me, one gym session a day and one court session. I felt like I was just starting to get a bit uncomfortable. I didn't feel positive on court in certain areas. So for me, I'm really prioritising more hitting work and technical work at the moment. So yeah, I'd probably train for up to 2.5 hours a day. If the days what are more intense are shorter, up to maybe an hour and a half, and the more technical days I can go up to 3 hours. So.
And what about when you're on court? How do you break up that split between the physical type of work? Because I know you love a physical session on court, and then that technical split. How do you get that split right?
I think for me, once I've got a point I want to work on my head, that helps a lot, like a technical point. If I'm in the mood to train really hard, which is quite a lot of the time, I can get carried away a lot, and you seem to back up more hard sessions day after day, and I don't think that helps me a lot. So I try and get a technical point in my head, especially training with people like Joel and Pat, who've got a similar sort of thing they're working on. It enables me to put more of my mindset into the actual technical session instead of getting carried away and wanting to have a really tough workout, which is what I obviously like doing most.
So one of the other questions that's come in, and I know that you love your food as well and you love consuming calories, but how many calories do you need to consume per day when you're actually in training hard?
So on a tough day, in the summer sessions, I've been doing these 90-minute sessions, what can be up to 1,500 calories just for movement in the gym, and then another court session as well. So on those days, it's quite actually hard to put the calories back in. So I'd say up to 3,500 to 4,000 calories a day if I'm training really hard. If I'm only burning 600-700 calories from a recovery day, a light day, then I'd probably have 2.5.
And will you eat all those calories, or do you have sort of supplements and different drinks that you'll use as well?
I don't really tend to go with supplements. For me, it's more food, whole food for me. It's quite hard to...
So 5 huge meals a day?
Well, yeah, massive breakfast for me. If I'm training with, when I know it's going to be a tough session with Joel or someone where I'm driving to go train, I definitely have to carb up massively on porridge to make sure I've got full energy through that, because in between sessions you want to hydrate, but you can't really eat that much if you're training hard again. So my main meal at night is pretty massive, to be fair. So yeah, lots of carbs, lots of protein.
Go on, what's your go-to meal? What's your favourite?
It's pretty boring. It's rice, yeah, like a chicken stir fry. So yeah, my girlfriend cooks it, I don't cook. So yeah, massive, but I mean like a bowl full. So.
Well, I remember when you were young and you got obsessed with your food and sort of the training side of it. And how many chicken breasts would you eat at once?
Oh, well, yeah, 4. Yeah, I can do at least 4 chicken breasts a day. Yeah, definitely. That's slowed down a lot now as I'm getting older. That has slowed down a lot. But yeah, when I was coming up 18, 19, 20, I was training properly, I could eat massive amounts, yeah.
So George, we obviously did a lot together with you as a junior, with me, with my England role, and you in that England setup coming through. And you had a very good junior career. When did you actually start playing?
So my dad owned a squash club called the Chase Hotel in Leicester. So ever since I could walk, really, I was at a squash club. So really young, 4, 5, 6, and then I started to take it more seriously when I was about 8 or 9. I won the Leicester County Championships at 8 under 11s, and that sort of gave me the squash bug. And from then, yeah, I've took it seriously since then.
And of course you had your brother playing as well, so was it you two there at the club all the time, just spending hours on court?
All day, yeah, 7 days a week I was at the club since I was 3 or 4 years old, so every time there's a 3 court I could jump on, I was just trying to hit the ball to myself.
And did you have a first coach when you started?
Darren Lewis was my first coach, and then Simon Rowlington was a few in Leicester, Simon Taylor, there's a few in Leicester, yeah, and then as I started to get up to the age of 12 or 13, it was Fiona Geeves, and then obviously the England setup as well.
And what would be your standout moment from your junior career?
Probably winning the European Under-19 Championships for me. A tough final, and it's a nervous situation to be, doing a speech. I remember doing a speech as well and messing it up. So yeah, there's a lot of pressure at that age when you...
I remember your speech was something about body blocking.
Yeah, well, that's what the match was about. I don't know. I find it really hard to speak in front of a massive crowd like that, and also playing with that kind of pressure. So I learned a lot from that, really. Yeah.
Did you go 2-love down in that match? And it was well over an hour and a half, wasn't it?
It was. There was a lot of decisions as well.
It was very hot conditions.
Yeah, it was.
And what about that transition then from, say, winning the juniors under-19s and then transitioning into the professional game? What was the difference that you found between junior and senior squash?
Well, for me, the style I played when I was a junior, I was very explosive and very attacking, and I feel like that, allowed me to dominate over a lot of these, players, but probably haven't developed physically as much as I did at the time. And I found I sort of played in that same way, and it did me quite well in the 5s and 10Ks. I was managed to, sort of blow people away. But then as I got onto the World Tour, that same style sort of led me to blow out early on. And I feel like the men on the tour had that knowledge that I was playing at this pace and I wasn't going to last. So I think it did me well through juniors, but it gave me an eye opener to that's probably why I got into the physical training so much, because I used to lose a lot of games where I'd be dominating for the first game and a half and then fall off a cliff. So yeah, the junior style of playing, I think, is a good way, and that's the way you've learnt to play for your whole career, but I don't think it takes you that far playing the men on the World Tour.
You've got to pick your punches a bit more, pick your battles, when to go hard, when to attack.
Yeah, I felt that, because I've never really changed since the junior. I have changed my style now, but for me at that time, that's the way I wanted to play, and there was no holding back in certain stages, and obviously the men could understand that because they've got so much more experience. So.
Especially, I always remember you had a great ability to lift, but then you moved away from that and you wouldn't actually lift much in rallies. I guess now you're getting a bit more mature. That's something that's coming back into your game. Yeah,
it's hard. It's hard for me. I go through phases of, being really fit and strong, and then feeling like I'm too fit and strong for my squash level. So then I try and go back to the technical. It's a hard balance to find, and for me, if I look at all the top pros, all of the top 10 have that equal balance of attacking, discipline, different types of physicality. So that's what I want to get more in my training, is that consistency, really.
So, and then thinking about the professional game as well, and how much you have to travel, and the tournaments you have to play, and travelling all around the world, how do you deal with that? And do you like it, or do you prefer being at home?
It's tough. I don't know. Yeah, we play squash in a lot of places what are not that enjoyable for me. But then the places like, New York, playing in London, Canary Wharf, for me, that's, the top end of the sport. I don't think it could get any better than that. So it's quite hard for me. I love being at home, and one thing I love about squash the most is my ability to have free time and get up when I want and choose when to do it. I think for me, that's the best thing I get from being a professional squash player.
Who do you spend most time with on the tour?
Deck, Pat, and Joel, really. Adrian Waller. Yeah, mainly the English boys, and Joel. Yeah, I train with Joel mostly, and Pat, and then Deck obviously has been injured recently. But the people I train with regularly are normally the people I hang around with when I'm away.
And what do you do to kill time when you're on tour and you've got the full day? So you've done your hit, you've got a match in the evening.
It depends who I'm with. Yeah, coffees.
So if you're with Joel, you have a coffee and then talk about who can do the most training.
Go do some hill sprints. Yeah.
Once you've had a coffee, there's no stopping either of you.
Yeah, we do some continuous rallies for an hour, something like that. Deck, we have deep chats. Like me and Deck have got a lot of, I lived with Deck for 3 years, so me and Deck have a lot of deep chats and just talk. And obviously, I learn a lot from him. And then me and Pat just silly. Just have a laugh.
So you can't go deep with Patrick Rooney?
Well, no. No. We've tried a few times, but no. No.
So you've earned yourself the nickname The Rebel, I guess because you can be emotional and volatile on court and off court, I guess. If you talk us through that a bit, what do you feel when you're on there, and how can you describe those emotions?
God, it's such a big topic. It's quite hard to narrow it down for me. I struggle with the ability to properly let my emotions out and deal with them in the right way. So a lot of it is balled up over time, and I get these spurts of being, you know, aggressive or too emotional. And I think what I struggle with is to deal with finding things in the moment, and there's a lot of factors what make me do that. Obviously the marking, the way I'm playing, what my opponent's doing to me, and I feel like I've always struggled to find a way to cope with that, and I think the reaction is a coping mechanism for me, not dealing with that in the right way. I've obviously got better through time because of, you know, getting penalised and stuff like that. I don't want to keep getting banned and stuff like that. So, but also I still don't feel like I've figured out how to properly, you know, express myself the way I want to on court. But I think it's a work in progress, and I'm closer to it than I have been, I think, as I'm maturing.
Is it a case of you having to work with it as well? Because I'm guessing that your personality and that sort of the aggression and the emotions is also an important part of you as a player and your squash.
I'm highly strung, like I'm a highly strung individual. I'm quite reactive, especially when you add caffeine, you know, being nervous before your match, and you get someone, you know, poking you because they know you can react like that. I'm quick to react. So for me, in those situations, it's learning how to deal, you know, sort of take yourself out of the situation and look from it from afar. So because I just don't want to be that reactive anymore. You know, that's sort of the way I am in life, really. I'm just quite all or nothing, quite train hard, and then don't really want to do that. So it sort of spills onto the court. You know, if I look at someone like Joel or the people who have got really good control, you know, I feel like they've got that balance way better than me. So.
You're also a very different character to them as well. So I think you need to work with your personality, don't you? And they work with their personality and they've found their balance. I guess you're just trying to find your balance because you wouldn't necessarily want to take all that away either, would you?
No, you need passion, but you don't need the way I react is, you know, different. I think you don't need that reactivity in situations, especially in high pressure situations. You need to have control. So I want to be able to express that kind of, you know, side of me, but just rein it in.
So if there was a junior out there that's the same, where they get very emotional on the court and sort of the red mist descends or they hate losing and that sort of side of it, what would be your sort of one learning point that you would pass down to someone like that?
For me, I don't feel like I've changed it, but I feel I've realised what it is, what causes me to do that. And then that's only going to happen by sometimes doing the wrong thing and reflecting on it. You know, a lot of the times I've been flying across the world and I've done something wrong and I get a bit of time to myself. That's when you can actually really reflect on looking at why you reacted to that situation. Once you delve into that, the toughest thing for me is changing it, you know, but the starting point is realising why.
You've got to be quite open and honest to get to that root cause though, don't you?
100% be honest with yourself. I've never lied to myself. I've just found it hard to change these personality traits that I've got. But I've definitely, being honest with yourself, you've got to be. You can't lie to yourself, no.
And what would you say would be the one sort of coping mechanism that you would say to someone, this is what helps to actually deal with it in the moment rather than having to reflect on it after it's happened? Or are you still looking for that?
Actually, that's so true, yeah. I actually am. Time for me, I found, I had this conversation with Patrick Rooney the other week, you might laugh, but everything passes for me. So, you know, just give it a tiny bit of time, because once I've had my biggest spells of anger or my biggest spells of, you know, feeling too emotional and not wanting to try, like everything passes within a couple of minutes or a couple of hours. So it's not getting too wrapped up in that state where you're going to ruin, you know, when you're reflecting, you're going to ruin a moment of your career just from a tiny bit of thing what will pass. So I think maybe just time, just give it time.
I think that's one thing that stands out for me as well. When we've had our moments where we've had heated moments, it's always been in the moment where we have the conversation, you will react, but then you'll come back a couple of minutes later and go, right, actually, look, I've thought about this.
Yeah, I think it's that fight or flight mentality for me. I'm very, in the heat of the moment, I'm very, you know, I'll run a million miles away or I'm too much in your face. And like you said, give it 2 minutes, we could have an argument and then I'll be apologising afterwards. So it's, in the heat of the moment, it's having that, I don't know, control that you would have if you're not, you know, full of testosterone and something's not going your way. It's having that control, thinking, you know what, I know why I'm in this state right now, and it's just backing off a bit. But it's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to do in sport when there's pressure. You know, you're away from home. It's not easy. So it's not gonna be a thing you fix overnight, for sure.
No, definitely. It's a challenge, isn't it? But it's one of the challenges that everyone faces and that everyone's trying to improve. You know, you might have that as your area, and then other people have other areas where it might be confidence or so you're not unique, are you? And it's just realizing that yes, it's something you've got to deal with, but everyone's got stuff to deal with.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, it's a bit more outstanding the way I do it, you know, because it's a bit more, you know, a lot of people aren't doing what I do in that respect, but everyone is going through their little thing that they're working on. So yeah, but like I said, nothing happens quickly with that kind of stuff. It's, you know, it's took me 5 or 6 years, well, more, of behaving like this to come to a stage now where I'm feeling better at it. I know myself more. I think a lot of it is avoidance. I think if you avoid the problem, which is easy to do with stuff, you know, everyone's busy, you know, you never actually properly reflect on it and actually try and attack it. And I know when I'm avoiding issues now, but for me, it's still the part of needing to change these personality traits, which is the hard thing for me. So.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the big things for Unsquashable is working with the player to get the equipment right. And I think you've certainly helped them to make sure that their racket's getting stronger.
Well, I've definitely.
The day you can't break one over your leg after a poor performance.
I don't know, I'm definitely the #1 helper for that, for sure.
One of the questions that's come in is around string tension. What do you like your strings strung at?
For me, I prefer my strings a lot looser. It's normally about 23 pounds for me. It's tough when you're traveling around the tour because I have a stringer in Leicester what does them perfectly for me. But then when I'm traveling around the world, it's, you know, different string machines do it with different tensions. So for me, I prefer it looser. I feel like the ball stays on the strings a lot longer. And when it comes back, you know, too tight at like 26, 27, I feel like I don't get the touch. I feel like it's a bit more tinny. So yeah, 23 pounds is about right for me.
You mean you can't afford to pay for your stringer to travel around with you just yet?
No. I'm not a tennis player.
Well, thanks a lot for your time, George. It's really good to get some insight into what makes you tick, and you're always very open and honest with all your answers. And of course, all those questions were coming in from everyone out there on social media, so I think they'll really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. Cheers.
Well, you can catch all of the videos that we've filmed with George here today. You can catch it up with it on the PDH Sports YouTube channel. So if you want to see everything that we've been talking about and George talking about the racket and the shoes, go and check it out.